everyone. I am sitting down with Anam Lakhani today on the podcast. Anam, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, and your company?
Of course. Cass, thanks so much for having me. Excited to chat. I'm the co-founder of Alinea Invest. We're an investing app for Gen Z, first-time investors, anyone who's felt like they've been left out of the conversation when it comes to money and finance. We have over 500,000 downloads, and we started as a school class project.
That's amazing. So yeah, can you tell me a little bit about when the company started? That's crazy that it started as a school project.
Yeah. So Eve, my co-founder, and I, we actually met in class and we were working on our
Where'd you guys go to school?
We went to Barnard.
Okay, cool. Which is in New York.
Here in New York, so uptown, so not too far from here. Well, a bit far from here, but yeah, not too far.
We're in the East Village today.
Yeah, so we're on the Upper West Side is where Alinea was born. Mm-hmm. And so we had both come back from internships on Wall Street. And we were like, okay, we have money for the first time, but once you're kind of done, like making that purchase you want or going through it, it's like, what do you actually do with it? And we were so frustrated because we saw all of these guys and our guy friends investing, but none of our female friends were talking about this. So our hypothesis was to build a platform that really caters to this population that's been left out.
Okay, and what year did you guys...
Wow, it started way back fall of 2018 was when we were in the class.
And you were juniors, seniors?
Senior in college.
Seniors. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so was your co-founder, what's her name again?
Eve Halimi,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, Eve Halimi. So was Eve, she was in one of your classes at Barnard, and you guys... How did it come about? Did you have a conversation about it? Like, you had a project and then...
Yeah, actually, so we were in this really small seminar class, and I asked her to be my class partner. I was like, hey, didn't really know her that well, and we just started chatting about all the different problems around us. So we started with like a nail machine that does your nails to like an art project, and then we started talking about money and finance, and we were both just like obsessed with this idea that none of our friends were as financially literate, including ourselves, when it came to money. It wasn't a topic that any of our friends were talking about. And for me, I had this really particular light bulb moment when I was working on Wall Street and I was interning. And, you know, I'm child of immigrants. So the narrative has always been go to school, get a really great, get good grades, get a high paying job. And so I got to that point and then I realized it's like, you can get a very high paying job, but if you don't know what to do with that money.
If you don't invest that money.
And if you don't invest that money, like you're stuck. You're stuck in a cycle. And so it was really at my summer internship that this guy next to me who was my age was like, I've been investing since the 8th grade and I've made enough to like pay off some of my college tuition. And I was like, and a lot of questions came up. I was like, am I stupid for not knowing how to do this? Is this something I've never been taught? And then I started talking to all my girlfriends. I was like, do you guys know how to do this? And every single person just said, no, like, I don't. And I was like, okay, there's something going on here. And
especially coming from a background, I'm also a child of immigrants, and that wasn't something that was discussed. My mom was, a refugee of the Vietnam War. She came to a refugee camp in Ohio with like nothing. For her, just getting a job in America was like a hurdle in and of itself. Just securing the job, making money, salary, that was enough.
Yeah.
But then, when you are educated, you worked on Wall Street, and so you saw firsthand how people actually build generational wealth. Is not just like working hard, elbow grease, which is very much the immigrant story. It's like you really need to make your money work for you by investing. I am so happy with your mission and like your product and what you're aiming to do. So what makes your company different? How do you guys... Tell me the growth story.
Yeah. So we're in this, I'll go in chronological order. So we're in this classroom, really passionate about this idea because we're like, there's clearly something going on here and no one's really solved this. And we get that feedback all the time. A lot of our users are like children of immigrants. We get a lot of Gen Z and they're like, parents never taught us and we know this is something we have to do. So we're in college, and at this point, like doing startups is not cool where we're at. It's not even really a possibility. I had a return offer to go back to banking, and Eve had like a job ready to go, and she was going to go work for a late stage startup. But for some reason, the class ended and we kept working on this project. And I honestly don't know what we were doing.
You just believed in it.
We just were like so excited to be doing what we were doing. We weren't thinking about revenue or like we wrote this like vague business plan, but like we were just so excited to like keep going. So we were working our full-time jobs and then we'd meet up on weekends and we were ideating on this and like drawing out sketches. I honestly don't know what we were doing, but we were making progress. And then I was at my investment banking job for about 6 months and COVID hit and really just had like an existential crisis. I was stuck in the suburbs and really thought about what I wanted to do with my life. And I was like, when is the right time to start something, you know? And I really pondered on that question and there is no right time. It's like the best time is now. Like, so I kind of rallied up Eve. I was like, let's give this a shot. Like, will you quit your job if we get some funding?
That's quite an ask.
It was crazy. Yeah, we were in my kitchen. It was like really dramatic, and we both like had our like bags on. It was very like dramatic. And she was down, which is great. I think you need a partner or a co-founder who's down. And we pitched a ton. And finally, we got our first check from Y Combinator.
Okay.
It was $125K back in the day.
Wow. So tell the audience too, like what Y Combinator is. Like I'm aware, but
Y Combinator is an accelerator program. A lot of companies have come out of it, like Airbnb, DoorDash, so many others.
Like startup accelerator
program.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And so you have an app.
Yeah.
So do you and your co-founder have development backgrounds? It sounds like you have more finance backgrounds.
Background. So at this point, we don't have an app. We're just pitching. We have an idea, and we've started to work on an MVP.
Okay.
So this was the super early days. And then we got into YC, and we found our technical co-founder, and we started building out the app.
Okay. And so how did you find the technical co-founder?
Just a lot of talking, like reaching out to everyone in your network.
Okay.
And then finally...
Did you have like a job description? Did you have like an attachment with the bullet points of what you're looking for? And you just sent that out to people that you knew?
I literally messaged every single person I knew. Like emailed everyone. I was like, hey, like just everyone. Ask everyone.
Okay. And so tell me about this technical co-founder. Can you describe why did you choose to work with them? What about this person?
Yeah. So Dan is our technical co-founder.
Or what's his full name?
Daniel Nissenbaum.
Okay.
Amazing. It was actually a funny story. There was like this book face posting, which is Y Combinator's social media site. And so we posted, and he actually, funny enough, was our classmate at Columbia. And so we just had like an instant connection. He really understood the vision. He was working at JP Morgan before, and he was super excited about what we were building. Yeah, and it's great because we all went to school together.
Cool. So what was the process for you? I know that you had sketched out, ideas and, you're working on this MVP. How did that conversation go with Dan insofar as allowing him to build it out?
So we had something built out before Dan joined. We had worked with like dev shops and other stuff and the really scrappy stuff you have to do to get something off the ground and running. And honestly, product is just so much iteration.
Yeah.
For like the first year or two, I think we were just iterating on the product. And it was really frustrating because nothing was working. But it wasn't like a 1, 2, 3 step process. It's like, you try something, you get it out, then you try something again, and you get it out, and you just keep doing it until you have some learnings.
And what was that iteration process? User testing or like your initial base of users? Really curious about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd get on phone calls with users like multiple times a day. From like the research phase till the product iteration phase. Until this day, we always try to stay in touch with our customers. I run customer support a lot of the times, like pop in, see what people are saying. And really what we found is that, number one, the biggest problem is I don't know what to invest in. Mm-hmm. And we really needed to solve for that. And the second is like, I don't know how to start. Like, can you walk me through exactly how to do this? So we found that those were the biggest problems. And the way we've solved that today is when you get onto the app, we have this AI assistant named Ali It's an orb. She'll talk to you, ask you a few questions about yourself, and come up with a personalized plan just for you. And you can set up a monthly investment, and it's automated. So
Cool.
It's a great solution for beginners.
Great. So tell me about, and you touched on this a little bit in your introduction of your company, your ICP, your ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who is your product for?
Yeah. So it's a 18 to 24-year-old woman, most likely, or child of immigrants, Gen Z, who's just come out of college. They have their first paycheck, and they're kind of stepping into adulthood, and they're taking that step with their money. So that's our ICP generally.
And how do you approach marketing and outreach to get new users? Yeah.
So we tried everything in the books. Like, we were giving out donuts at college campuses, boba, and we didn't really want to get on TikTok. I was really shy. Like, that's not I have no like social media background ever. Like, and we spoke to one of our advisors, and he was like, your biggest regret in life will be not getting on TikTok as founders and like telling your story. And so we put out a TikTok about our story, I think August 2022, and it went semi-viral. It got 500,000 views.
Wow.
And
was it just like on your iPhone? It was
just like some like stitched up video about her story. Like, I did the voiceover, super low production, and we're like, wow, like I think there's something here that we can keep doing. So we've really used short form video content to reach our audience and grow.
Yeah, and I think that especially who you're trying to reach, like Gen Z, there's a lot of research that comes out about consumer behavior for this cohort. Everyone's obsessed with figuring out how younger folks buy. And I think the common thread is, younger people, they really care about the story. They want to have this deeper relationship with a brand and a company. And I think that it was really smart of you to work through your shyness to, put out TikTok. Are you like, you're on my podcast today. Thank you so much. But do you do things like this often, or how do you present yourself to the public today, if at all?
Yeah. All the time. I think there's a few learnings that we've had. Number one, people don't want to follow brands in this day and age. They want to follow people. Mm-hmm. And so even I do the content till this day. And look, we really built Alinea because we wanted people to not feel excluded. Alinea was really meant to include everyone who's felt left behind. And so having our voices and us being the face of this brand is important, because a lot of people resonate. Every time I talk to someone who's downloaded the app, I'm like, how did you come here? They're like, I felt connected and I felt like this was relatable. And that really is the whole point. There's not a lot of fintech brands that are taking a stand on that, or that are building that personal relationship with their community. And I think that's what really sets Alinea apart.
Yeah, and I think you guys are really doing things right in terms of, your copywriting, your messaging. It feels very inclusive. And I think one thing that you mentioned earlier was how you and your friends, you weren't talking about investing. And I can relate to this too, where you start investing and you feel like you're late to the game, or maybe you're like, why haven't I invested before? Am I bad? Am I dumb? Yeah. And money is like a very sensitive, emotionally loaded topic. People have a lot of feelings around it. So how does that inform how your marketing efforts, I guess?
Yeah. Again, like being very relatable and like meeting people where they are. I think my biggest qualm when I was trying to invest was there's no product or brand that meets you where you are and says, hey, like every brokerage account you open, or if you have to start investing as a beginner, you have to meet them where they are. You have to learn how that platform works. And we wanted Alinea to be able to meet users where they are. So we want to get to know you. We want to build an experience for you that's easy. And if you're like, I want more education, we want to give that to you. If you're like, I'm good, I want to just invest in some stocks and create my own playlist. Playlists are collections of investments on the app. Like, we want to meet you where you
playlist,
are.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a super fun feature we have, and it picked up a lot of virality. We actually got featured in the New York Times for that.
Oh, cool.
So it was really cool.
So what were some like major turning points for your company early on?
Obviously getting on TikTok, that was huge for us. We grew a lot of our community and our audience through that. We launched our Alinea automated playlist. So before the product was very much, we had these playlists and it was very Spotify-like for investing. You could come on, create playlists, share. There was a social feed. And
cool.
We kind of found that the social feed didn't really address a lot of those emotional and psychological barriers you face before you start investing. And so we invested a lot of time building out a very robust onboarding because, again, we found that one of the biggest pain points is I don't know what to invest in and I don't know how to start.
Yeah.
And if a lot of our product, I think investing is 80% getting started. Because once you get it going, and the safe way to do it is you just automate it and you basically are very hands-off and you let it grow over time. So we invested like over a year just perfecting our onboarding. We're still making it better. But it really gets to know the user. It's a conversation. It's very interactive. And that was a huge turning point for us. We saw like our funded account rates really go up. We saw a lot of people, the retention went up. Once people went through the onboarding, they were coming back and investing more. And again, it's great to see that all of our hypotheses in the beginning of this business held true to this date.
Cool. So I want to talk a little bit about your background, kind of, you went to Barnard here in New York. What was your major?
Econ,
okay.
Basic.
And then would you say there were experiences in your younger life that helped you know what career direction you wanted to go in? I just want to understand the seeds of your entrepreneurship.
So I grew up in a family. Both my parents, they ran small businesses.
Oh, cool.
Very typical immigrant. They'd come here with no education.
Where are your parents from?
They're from India.
Cool, okay.
So they immigrated here when they were super young. And I just watched them try so many different types of businesses, whether it was in food or like convenience stores. And I think about it now. I think I really internalized a lot of that. And so that was sort of the story. I was going to be, I don't know, at one point maybe like a doctor, one point a lawyer. And then I started doing investment banking and just quickly realized that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. And it really made a lot of sense for me.
Cool. And also I want to understand for you navigating being a business owner, a founder as a woman, do you feel it has been friction associated with that at all? How old are you, first of all?
Oh, yeah, it's 27.
Okay, 27. I'm 31, I'm a little bit older. So we may have some shared experiences, but I'm really curious to know your take on this. Yeah.
I think the beginning of the journey is really lonely because I didn't see anyone around me that was like me, like starting companies. And there are so many female founders out there, but there's not a ton of us. And it's not the same way like when I see male founders, they have like a really strong like communities and networks, and it's very casual. They just text their friends like, hey, I'm raising some money, like throw some money in, but it's not that way for us. And the ecosystem has evolved a lot. I think
Why do you think it's not that way? Just because it's not,
I don't think
you don't feel as comfortable?
I don't know if we're I don't know if we're socialized to just like throw in money to our friends' businesses or it's not typically the patterns I see. But I see it's way more common with guys are just like throwing a few $1,000s into my buddy's startup. Like that's normal.
Yeah.
But on the optimistic note, I think the ecosystem has evolved a lot. There's a lot more female founder communities. When Eve and I were in Y Combinator, I think we were like one of the youngest and probably like one of the few female startups with like a co-founder, and probably like one of the very few like double female founded startups with 2 female co-founders. But it was a really great learning experience. I think it's been an advantage in a lot of ways as well. Like there's a huge market for what we're doing, and our competitive advantage and our founder market fit is being able to connect to our audience and our community.
You are your audience.
We are our audience and build a product for them.
Yeah.
So
I don't know for my personal experience, I think some of my biggest champions and the people who have lifted me up and helped me develop as a professional have been women, for sure. Has mentorship played a role in your...
I have the best story ever. So
great.
I was just like, searching on the internet, and I found one of my biggest mentors to this date. Her name is Ashley.
What's her full name?
Ashley Aiden. She's great. Everyone should check her out.
I love shout-outs here.
Love shout-outs. And I just like randomly emailed her. She was at MIT MBA, and I think I was considering MBA at the time as an option. And I started chatting to her, and she's like, I'm in VC. I was like, hey, like I have this startup idea. What do you think? And I sent her a deck, and I didn't think she'd respond. And she's great. She sends me back like a detailed notes about how to make the deck better. And then I start chatting with her. And this was back, we were chatting in like 2020. And it took, I think we got our YC investment end of 2020. So it was beginning of 2020. And I called her up. I was like, hey, I got like a check. And she goes, I'm going to angel invest. And she was like, it was so crazy because we were randomly connected and we were chatting and we developed this relationship. And she was one of the first checks into Alinea. And to this date, she's an amazing mentor and we're always texting, and she is one of our biggest champions.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So for other folks that want to have a mentor, what is some advice? You definitely put yourself out there reaching out. What advice do you have for people?
I think like reach out. Like if you're not emailing a ton of people and being annoying, like
you're going to get a ton of no's.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Yeah. And also like it's fine.
It's totally fine. It's part of the process. But just reach out to as many people as possible. People are way more helpful than you think so. And people love to help. Yeah. I think we always underestimate how helpful people are.
And also, I think it's a huge compliment to reach out to someone and say, like, you know, essentially you're saying you look up to them and what they're doing is cool. And can you
help out? Yeah. Can we chat? And everyone loves chatting.
Yeah, it's true.
Especially about themselves.
And I want to talk a little bit about how you balance everything. Yeah. You know, especially as a founder, 24/7, I imagine that your job, some aspect of your company is on your mind. Yeah. You live in a city that's like super stimulating, but it's like a sensory overload. So much is going on all the time. How do you stay grounded? How do you balance personal life? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I love going on walks. I think why I started the company was because I had a lot of quiet time. And I was
during the pandemic,
During the pandemic, like I wasn't...
Soul searching was happening.
I wasn't seeing friends. I wasn't doing anything. I was... Even like work had slowed down a bit, so I had time to think. And I think so many of us just don't give ourselves enough time to think. And so like I make it part of my daily routine to like go on walks and like fit in a walk. And like just even going on like a 20, 30-minute walk, you can come back refreshed and with some great ideas. And then as far as the noise of the city, I've been here for almost a decade now, like since I was 18. So I've learned the excitement of the city kind of wades over time. And in a positive way, you're able to focus and get stuff done. But yeah, I mean, there's always part of the company on my mind. Like there's very few hours of the day where it's not. And that's a good thing in a way because you're thinking about what you can do next, but also important to take time for yourself. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. A lot of our advisors have told us, like, don't burn yourself out. And there's so many examples where I've seen where founders have, like, just worked till 4 a.m. over and over, and they feel burnt out after a year and they don't want to do it anymore. So,
like, if you're not taking care of your body physically, mentally,
you're not helping yourself. It's a long game. It's a marathon, and you have to give yourself like the space to rest as well.
So I think that you have grown such an impressive base. You said over 500,000 downloads of the app. And I think in my career, so one of my hats, I'm on the leadership team of a web development digital marketing agency.
Oh, amazing.
Thanks. But over the years, I've definitely talked to people who are launching apps and products, and so many people would just fall over themselves to get that kind of user base and that many downloads of their app. What was key to your growth? You mentioned that TikTok that went viral, and you tried so many different things. You mentioned giving out donuts and boba at college campuses. Maybe digital marketing wise, like maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter. I think when we were in YC, like the narrative is a lot around product, which is super important, and you can't have a strong user base without a good product. But I think what's not as talked about and what's critical in consumer is distribution. And so for us, cracking our distribution was a huge unlock. And my take on this is that in today's day and age, everything is so competitive. It's getting harder and harder to grow on social media. So you obviously have to grow through content, like even in terms of reaching people. Like when we were giving out donuts on college campuses, I think we'd have like 5 people or like 6 people stop by every 30 to 40 minutes. But if you make a really great TikTok, that can reach 500,000 to 1 million people, and everyone's always on their phones, for better or worse at this point. And so for us, it was really about messaging. We made these like text overlay videos, and they're just 5 seconds. It's just us drinking coffee, like a mundane activity that we do anyways, and just really like cracking the messaging. And some of these text overlays have gone viral and over millions and millions of views. And so that really helps you understand, like, what are people resonating with? What are they connecting with? So just rapid iteration of your messaging is still critical.
Do you know, can you speak to like a certain piece of content that's, yeah.
I think one of them was like me explaining to my friends why it's not stupid that I built an app for you to learn how to invest, but it's sad that we don't learn about this in school and only dudes talk about it. And so many people, like millions of people, resonated with that message.
And was it like set the stage for me in this video? It was like...
It was just like me like drinking coffee and filming. We actually put up our like top 4 viral TikToks as wild postings around the city. So they'll be up this week.
Okay.
And the idea was really like taking social media and bringing it onto the streets. But yeah, like these messages just resonated with like thousands and thousands of people. So...
And is there anything that you could share with folks that, you know, are creating their own content for their brands to get it out there? Did you do anything hashtag-wise or tagging to target specific communities? Yeah.
I hate to say this. I wish there was like a really specific strategy that got you to success, but it's just a lot of like getting your reps in, just so much iteration. I think
creating so much content.
Creating so much content. Like content. To do it to like the brink of insanity if you have to. Like, and that's how you learn. You just learn through like how much your learnings are based off like the volume you put out there. So
is TikTok your best performing channel in terms of attaining like net new users?
I think we've really cracked short form video content. So TikTok and Instagram Reels.
Instagram Reels and TikTok.
And I think that's kind of where we're headed in terms of social media, short form video content. So
okay. And do you have a social media manager? Is that you?
It's me. Even I do.
Okay.
There's an article that recently came out, and it's about like founder mode, and Paul Graham wrote it from YC, and like we're very founder mode with our content, and it's allowed us to learn a lot. So I encourage anyone that's listening, like before you go and hire someone, like get your reps in and see how you do. Chances are you'll probably put in more reps and give it a better shot than hiring anyone.
And also, there's many reasons why you want to tackle it yourself. As a newer company, you want to have your dollar go further.
Are you your own social media manager?
For this?
Yeah.
Well, I actually do work with some people on my team at my age. I have the luxury of that because marketing agency. But in terms of, you know, putting together the content and the guests, that's what I do. But so doing it yourself, making your dollar go further. But also, I think you learn a lot in that process. Yeah. And then when you're at the position of, you know, hiring someone to do social media on your team, or maybe hiring a contractor, hiring an agency like mine, you're able to give much better directive and scope to them so that they can hit the ground running, work off of, okay, this is what's working, what's not. But yeah, I guess maybe how has your youth, maybe your age, I mean, you're the youngest in your cohort at Y Combinator. Yeah. How did that play?
I think like as we get older, we start overthinking things. And I think like I'm glad I started Alinea when I did, because I wasn't overthinking anything. I was like, I'll figure it out as I go. And that's sometimes a really good mindset to have. Like just figure it out as you go, because if you're that determined, you're going to figure out a solution. And every time I start like overthinking things, I try to like go back to that like 23-year-old mindset. It's like, all right, we'll figure it out as we go. Because there's so many people that are just going to say no to you, or say like, this won't work, or you won't be able to do this. Like one of the biggest pieces of feedback we got is no one ever is going to pay for an investing app. And like tens of thousands of people have. So, so you have to just like kind of go back to like, your own hypothesis and like your own delusional way of thinking before the other opinions creep in.
Yeah. Also, what does Alinea mean? Can you give the
That's
story of the
a really
name?
good story. So
Yeah.
Eve, my co-founder, is French,
Okay.
and so we were brainstorming names, and we wanted, I don't know, we were thinking of different things. A lot of them were very cheesy, but then she came with Alinea, and I was like, wait, I really like that. And in Latin it means a new chapter, or like a
that's
new
nice.
paragraph. It means to
Yeah.
indent. So Alinea Invest is a new chapter in investing.
Okay, very cool.
And we were obsessed. I was like, we're never changing the name. Like, I love Alinea.
And so what's on the horizon for Alinea? Maybe do you want to highlight some product?
Yeah, we're super excited. We're making the product, we're adding a lot more education to the products right now. We have hundreds of lessons. We'll be adding quizzes, like questions for the day, and just being able to build out your knowledge when it comes to financial literacy. We're working on personalizing the product a lot more. So on every touch point of your investing journey, like coming up with tailored solutions just for you. And really utilizing like our AI assistant, Allie, to be there with you on the journey, whether she's giving you a lesson or telling you if you should be investing more or by how much, and really making the whole experience about you and what your goals are.
Cool. Can you tell me about your user base? Are there any interesting patterns that you didn't expect? Yeah.
Yeah. So 90% of our users are first-time investors.
Okay.
And I believe the stat is almost over 80% are female, which is great. I think we're the most female-oriented like investing platform out there, which is very exciting. And yeah, around 70% are Gen Z.
Okay, very cool. And in terms of speaking to a Gen Z consumer, what are your observations of people have a lot of opinions and what is maybe your user testing telling you? Share with me.
Like, you have to keep it authentic. Mm-hmm. Like, Gen Z, if it looks like an ad or it feels like an ad or if it feels like really promotional content, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
So you have to really deliver something in a very native format to the platform, whatever it may be. For TikTok, for us, it's short form video content. And we don't do anything very high production. It's just us with the camera, like getting on there, talking to our audience. And I think a lot of people have connected with that because it's just raw and authentic.
Cool. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about? Maybe someone that you really look up to, women that you really look up to. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, before I was here, I was listening to a podcast by the founder of Solid Core. Her name is Anam Lakhani, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. And I heard her talk at an event a few months ago, and she's super cool. She bootstrapped Solid Core and scaled it up. In terms of tech, like so many founders come to mind. Payal Kadakia of ClassPass, Whitney from Bumble, so many. Melanie Perkins, Canva.
Yeah. And are there any things that you look out for as learnings from them, or is it more an aspirational, like they grew their platforms?
Yeah, I think both. I think so many of those companies have offered like a consumer subscription model. They're consumer facing. And, you know, I think Bumble has done such a great job with like the female lens marketing. It's something we opt to do and we try to do as well. So many different examples out there. And I think there's so much more room for products tailored to different demographics. And I really think that'll be the future of consumer.
And how would you describe female lens marketing?
For the girlies.
For the girlies. How would you maybe content that would be for the girlies?
For the girlies, yeah.
Yeah. I know that some of your videos have been like you talking to your friends over coffee. What are some other things that you think resonate really well with a female audience?
I think it's, again, just like meeting people where they are. Like, it's not overcomplicating it, but just saying like, hey, we built this for you. A lot of times addressing the audience really helps and explaining the pain point and why it's there. So building that story and that community and that connection, especially with investing, right? Investing is traditionally a very male-heavy demographic. That's where it leans. It's very technical. The investing, a brokerage platform has like red and green on it. And if you're not technical or if you have like anxiety around money or if you're not feeling confident, it can be a very scary and intimidating thing to do. So just talking to your audience and say, hey, I know you feel this way. We built this for you. You know, it really removes a lot of those barriers.
Very cool. Well, is there anything that you would want to share with folks that maybe want to start their own businesses, specifically in tech, maybe even in fintech? What advice do you have?
I think just get going. It's like really the small milestones that lead to the big things, and you just have to keep it moving step by step.
And why are you so resilient with all the no's? I'm like,
I don't know. I'm a Pisces. No.
Pisces.
I don't know. I think we really believe in what we're doing. I know it's a real problem. We have a vision for it. We see that every single time we talk to our female friends or we talk to our friends, we know that this is a real problem. And on a first principles basis, it hasn't been solved. I think if you go around and you ask 100 people, like, have you started investing? Do you know what to invest in? You'll know on a first principles basis that problem has not been solved. So I think like solving problems is what excites me, and Alinea is a way to tackle that.
The firm belief you have in your mission, so the no's don't phase you because you know that you have product market fit. It's just a matter of.
And I experienced the problem myself. Like I saw what it was like to feel like you're left behind. Like when I was interning on Wall Street, it was just a bunch of men just talking about their investments every day. And I never had access to those conversations. And like when something isn't talked about around you, it becomes more and more scary.
Right.
So I truly believe in this like community of bringing this to people who don't have access to those conversations, who don't have access to the education. I think the stat is financial literacy classes are only taught in like 14 states in high schools in the United States. And then if you see like everything that's going on the day-to-day with inflation, millennials are not able to buy houses, Gen Zs are like
waiting to start families.
Like all of the downstream consequences of that, I think like now more than ever, knowing how to manage your money and being smart with it is so important.
Yeah.
And so I firmly believe in our mission, and I've spoken to so many users who've said like this really changed like money for me, and I didn't feel confident, and now I'm taking control of my finances.
That is so cool. I bet as a founder to hear that, I feel like I would cry. I don't know.
It's the best feeling. And I think like a lot of it is just unlocking that confidence. And I think once you get started, like we've had users who've been with us since the beginning of the platform, and now they've grown their portfolio to like tens of thousands of dollars, and they're very young women. And so seeing that impact is great. And it's not just about money. It's really about opportunity and freedom. I think like every time I get on a call with a user or customer, there's something deeper behind it. They're like, we know we want to retire, or we want to pay for grad school, or we want to buy a house. So not fazed by the no's, because I know that how much of an impact this can have.
Oh, it's so amazing. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
This was so fun. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you had fun. And actually before I let you go, I want you to tell everyone how they can find, and how to download and all that.
You can follow us on Anam and Eve on TikTok and Alinea Invest, and you can download Alinea on the App Store.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you. Thanks, everyone.